Okay, I presume everybody can see the start and end files for for lesson 9. It's a movie poster assignment. The most important part of this lesson is creating the composite image of the monster. There are a couple of other features that we have of bringing the black and white image of 2 characters here. And they have another one for effects of the headstones down here. They've already done the title for us. So what I want to focus on today is the monster, and then that will be it. So that will probably take me a half an hour, and that's about all. So to get started with that, what you want to do is you want to bring up Bridge. And so if you don't know where Bridge is, it's under File. And you want to say here under File, open, not the camera, the Bridge. Where is it? Edit? No, under File. Because I already have it open, so it's probably grayed out. Yeah, there we go. So it's always Reveal in Bridge. So I have it open. So if you look in the lesson 9 folder, there's another folder contained within that has all of the parts that we need to make our monster. And here is the initial guy here. There's this guy. And then we're going to layer these pieces on top of him and construct our monster. So what you want to do, because normally what we've done up to this point is that you've opened up all of these files separately and then join them together. But in this particular instance, what I want to do is I want to take all of the files and I want it in one fell swoop. I want to open them all in a single file. So to do that, you select them all. And the easiest way of doing that is to click on the first one, hold down the Shift key, and click on the last one. So now they are all selected. And then we go up to Tools, Photoshop. And what I want to do is I want to load files into Photoshop layers. So if I click that, notice that it's opening a brand new file. And it's putting all of these images on their own layer. And there we have it. So they're all here. We just need to find the Franken guy here. We're going to move him into position. And I got to zoom out just a little bit so we can see everything. Actually, I'm just going to focus on him. You don't need to see this. So let's go back to Window and Arrange. And I just want to go ahead and we want to tile these. Go back up, or just I'm going to consolidate them all in the tabs. There we go. So here we have this guy's character, and we need to rearrange all of the other pieces so that they're in the correct order. And that's pretty straightforward. And then we can go ahead and resize the mask elements to turn him into Frankenstein's monster. And then in addition to that, we need to colorize him a little bit, okay? To give him the same skin tones as the monster. And then that will be it for today. And then we'll go ahead and whoever wants a critique, we can do that. So I'm going to start and put him at the very bottom here. Okay. So if I got that right, let's go ahead and put him at the bottom. There we go. So he's at the bottom of the stack. Next up, we want to put the face or the mask itself. So we'll go ahead and we'll put that next order. After that, we have a couple of options here. I can put the neck. That would be a good option here. We'll put that on top of that. And then we also have the green nose. We can put that there. And we can put ear staples. Those can go at the very top. The enhanced green forehead, that can go near the top. and the hair goes at the very top. So there we go. So I reorganized them. And I don't know why I have a clipping mask of him, but that's okay right now. I'm going to throw the clipping mask away and I'm going to create one. So we'll go ahead and just delete the mask. There we go. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off all of these other elements so that they don't confuse me while I'm working on the rest of this. There we go. So we just need the mask and that's it. And now we can go ahead and move it into position. If you want, we could lock his image so that we don't accidentally move it. But the rest from here on out is pretty straightforward with a few exceptions. What I'm going to do now is hit Command T to resize. And I like holding down the Option and the Shift key and shrink it down. And the next step is to make sure, now I made this a little bit too small, is that to size this properly, you really want to make sure that his key features match up with the mask, or the mask matches up with his key features. So I'm going to go ahead and enlarge this just a little bit, and then I'm going to bring it down to make sure that his eyes and his nose and his mouth match up, and it looks pretty good. So we're good to go. So as I said, this is going to go pretty quickly. So I hit the return key. So the next one, I'll go ahead and I'll turn on this thing that goes, underneath his chin, all the stitches and that sort of thing. And we're going to do the same thing, just one of these at a time. So Command T, Shift Option, shrink it down a bit. We'll just shrink it down until it, matches in size. It looks pretty good. Maybe we can make this a little bit bigger so that the width matches his neck. That would be a good starting point. So that looks pretty good. And I can nudge it over using the arrow keys if I want. That's too much. Okay. So I just get it in a position here. There we go. So again, if this takes a half an hour, I'd be very surprised. So we have that in place now. Now we're going to turn on the next one. And we're going to move the nose in place. So that goes like so. And we're going to do the same thing. Command T to resize. Shift Option or Alt to shrink it down a bit. And then we're going to make sure that this fits in place. It's still a little bit too large. Okay, move it into position here. And that's looking pretty good. Okay, and again, if I need to use the arrow keys to nudge it in place, I can do that. Hit the return key or hit the checkbox, and we're good to go. So now we have the next one, enhanced green forehead. That goes next. Okay, so we're gradually piecing this guy together. Now, at the very end, we could create a composite of all of this as a single image, or we could bring it over as multiple layers. My choice would be, for myself, to save this as a file, and then I would collapse it or flatten it as a duplicate, and then I would send that collapsed file over to my movie poster. So the same thing, Command T, shrink it down so it fits. Move it in position, like so. It's still a little bit too big. And move it down a little bit. Now it's okay if part of his forehead or the top of his hair shows a little bit, because we're going to put his hair on top of that. And then we have one more thing that we're going to do before we say that we're done with him, is we want to make sure that the eyes match the underlying mask. And I probably should have done that first, but once I have all of these matched up, I can turn them back off, and then we can put them in position. Okay, so we'll do that. See, this is going to cover up his hair. Command T. Or the top of his head, I should say. There we go. Again, shrink it down a bit until it fits. A little bit larger. That looks pretty good. Okay. So I think we have that in position. We got it good. And we have a couple more things. We have his earpieces here. So we've got that. We're going to move this over like so. And again, Command T. So it's just a matter of resizing all of these and putting them into position. Now, if I want an earpiece on the other side, this is what we do. So I'm going to shrink this down a little bit more. And move it into place. So what if I want this on the other side? Well, I can always make a copy of it and put it on its own layer, which isn't a bad idea. And notice how it's covering up his ear a little bit so we don't see that. And that looks pretty good. So there we go. So now really what I want to do is I want to make a copy of this layer. So if I select it and I hit Command J, that makes a copy of it. And now what I can do with that layer, I can go to Edit, Transform, and I can select Flip Horizontal. Now, I don't think that the book has done this. So there we go. So now we have a duplicate. And this should fit pretty well on the other side. You need to nudge it just a little bit in scale or size or whatever. We can do that. But I think it's working pretty good. Okay, and then the last thing is to turn on the little bolts that go in his here. So again, Command T to transform. I'm going to shrink it down so it fits like so. Move it into position. Make it a little bit smaller. And that works pretty well. So there's a couple more things that we need to do. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit return so that that fits. So I'm going to turn off some of these elements first. I'm going to turn them all off and go all the way back to, I want the this texture right here to be selected for his face, because I want the eyes to match a little bit better. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and to get the area around the holes in the mask to match his eyes a little bit better, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the liquify tool. And where you find that is you go under filter and you select liquify. Okay, now we want to make sure, I want to make sure that I see the background image. So I need to show backdrop so that he's there. We need to zoom in a little bit, like so. And then I can make the brush a little bit smaller by hitting the left bracket right next to the P key. And this you might have to play with a little bit, but I want to use this first one right here. Now you'll notice that if I come in here and I start to move this around, notice that it mushes it just a little bit. So I'm going to shrink the size of that eye hole for his mask just a little bit. And if you look carefully, and when you try this yourself, you'll see that it just nudges it ever so slightly. So I'm going to do the same with the other eye here. Move that in a little bit, move that up a little bit, so we can really get this tight in here, nice tight fit. So I'm just moving in just a little bit at a time, nudging it ever so slightly. And if I don't like it when I'm done, I can always undo it and try it again. So you're, you know, it's non-destructive in that sense. Okay, so I think I have a pretty good idea. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And you can see that I shrunk it down a bit, maybe a little bit too much. I think so let me undo that. Let me do that again. So I'm going to select it again, and I'm going to go back up and go back up the filter. And let's try it one more time. Try liquify. And zoom in a little bit so I can see. So you're kind of working in the dark just a little bit. So I want to, you know, just nudge it probably a little bit less than I had done before. Just subtle nudging in here. Just to kind of get some of his the original photograph hidden by some of the, I'm going to leave it at that, see what we have here. That looks a little bit better. So I could probably futz with it a little bit more. And now I can go ahead and I can turn these back on. Okay, we can zoom out a little bit. Let's turn on all the other layers. And so, and the next step is to colorize his hands. So this is how you need to do this. Okay, because you want to work in a non-destructive fashion. I don't want to colorize his hands. I want to work on a layer on top of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a brand new layer directly on top of him. Okay, it's just blank. And then I need to make a selection of him. So a quick way of doing that is to hold down the Command key or the Control key on a PC and click on the icon of his layer. And you can see how I've made a nice selection of him. Okay. Now what I can do is I can use the brush tool. Okay, I can pick a nice big brush. Probably want a nice circular brush here. Let's pick one of these. And 70 pixels ought to do it, maybe a little bit larger. Okay, and I'm going to enlarge it a little bit by hitting the right bracket key. And now what I want to do is I'm going to hold down the Control key and click. And I don't need that because I'm good to go. But what I do want to do is I want to pick a color for my foreground color. And I'm going to pick that from his forehead here. So it's sort of a pea green. Now, if I come back in here with a brush tool that I had selected and I begin to paint on here, oh shoot, went back to the brush that I had just created. There we go. If I start to paint in here, let's see what we have. Flow, 100%, smoothing, opacity, 100%. Got that. So let me start to paint on here. Why aren't you painting? Normal. So, yeah, oh, weird. Okay, let me deselect for a minute and see what I got going here. No, let me select it again because I want to make sure that he's selected because I want to protect that area. Let me just show you what happens here. So we've got mode is brush, which is what I want. We've got a nice big, or oh no, I'm sorry. I have eraser selected, duh. My apologies. I don't know why I did that. There we go. Now, why does it keep going over to, let me pick another brush from there. It keeps going to the eraser, and I don't know why it's doing that. Well, I'll just use this brush, just for the heck of it. Now, if I start to paint, notice that it paints over everything. That's not what I want. Okay, I want it constrained to just his body, his area. So again, if I hold down the Command key and I click on his layer, but make sure that I have layer 1 selected. Now notice that when I draw across here, it's restricted inside the marching ants. But you'll also notice that as I continue to paint, it's like painting a wall. I'm just eradicating the underside. I can always turn it off. I can turn off that layer and that brings it back, but that doesn't help me. So what I want to do is I want to undo that. And I'm going to go ahead and select that layer. Let's undo. Let's bring that back. Okay. So now what I want to do is I'm going to switch from normal under mode down to the bottom here. I'm going to select color. And like magic, when I start to paint on top of this, notice that the details, the creases in the palm of his hand and his fingers and that sort of thing, they all remain intact. And it only colorizes his skin, and that's it. Now, you do want to be careful around his shirt. Okay. But that's how you colorize. Now he is going to have his little wedding ring here. That doesn't change. And he's going to have his watch band. That doesn't change. We've got that. And again, I'm going to carefully go around where his shirt is. And where his thumb is, his hands, so I don't colorize his shirt at all. And there you go. Now, if I wanted to colorize part of his face, I could do that as well. And here, that's helpful. So that you kind of get some of his original flesh or skin tones out. I don't want to colorize his eyes though. So I'm going to reduce the size of that. And I am going to erase that around the eyes here. Make sure that that is not affected. Okay, and then when I'm all done, let me go back to the brush. I missed a few spots here. And I can deselect. And again, if you need to make changes, this is on a separate layer. So I've worked in a non-destructive fashion. So that really works well for us. So now what I would do, and I don't need to create a duplicate of this, but what I would do is I would select all the layers, and I'm going to create a composite layer, leaving all of the originals intact. So if I click on the first layer, scroll down to the bottom layer, and hold down the Shift key, now all of the layers are selected. And now if I hit Shift, Option, Command E, I create a composite at the very top. And I can turn off all of these other layers on the bottom, so it leaves them intact. So I work non-destructively, but I have a composite layer that I can drag over and add to my my new backdrop file. So that's what we'll do. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to use the Move tool. And I'm going to click and drag over Backdrop tab, and then drag down here and bring it in. And there you go. Now we have it in here. So it should be between him, should be between the title and the background. Okay. The title should be on top, and he should be on top of the background. So for Wednesday, we have a couple more things to do, and I'll show you different ways of adding the black and white image of those people. So we can do that. And here's the end file to compare it and see. We've got that, and we've got the headstones at the bottom. The headstones are probably the least important, but it all works. So the next step would be to save this. So I'll just save it, save as lesson 9 working file. Make sure that I don't work on top of my old one. So I want this to be lesson 9 working file. Now I've kept my original intact, make sure that it's a Photoshop file. So I maintain all my layers and that sort of thing. So those are the first steps in creating our composite image. Very simple. What takes a little bit of work is understanding how to use the liquify tool. In the past, I've had an assignment where I've had people do that, create a caricature of themselves or of a friend or of someone, and use some of those tools to distort and to make, you know, kind of some funhouse types of images. So that's all that I have to talk about for that. So that took me, as I said, about a half an hour. But now, if there is anyone, or if there are a few of you, would like to do a critique, any takers? No? No? Anybody want to do a critique for the postcard that didn't get a chance to the other day? Because that's what I wanted to do, because I knew that there were a few people who didn't get a chance to critique the work. So let's look at participants, see what we have here. Markeisha, Hardy, do you want me to critique your work? I presume that's a yes. So let me look at chat. Okay, so let me look at yours really quick. So I need to look at the file here. And let's look at Monday, Wednesday. I'm having to spend a couple of minutes opening it up here. So Markeisha Hardy. Oh, shoot. If this crashes, let me know, because it says that my internet connection is unstable at the moment. And that's not good. That's happened a couple of times. So if it does go away, we will continue. So on another day. As I said, we're really kind of ahead of schedule. So I'm going to go ahead and it's welcome. Is that the one, Markeisha? Welcome to the Skeld postcard assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and download that. And I need to put it on my desktop. So here we go. Hold on here. I'm trying to remember where I put them. I downloaded all of them. Well, let me try. Here, let me just download it onto the desktop. So we'll do that. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my desktop, and then I'll organize it later. Okay, I'll save it. And now it's just called postcard PSD, right? So if I go to file, open, and I go to the desktop, and I make sure that I view it so I can see the list. And here it is right here. There we go. Okay, so Markeisha, I'm going to allow you to speak, and I want you to talk to us a little bit. So I'm going to lower your hand here, but I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to allow you to speak. So do you want to talk to us, Markeisha?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and tell us a little bit about your postcard.
So my postcard is basically based off of the game Among Us. It's
Okay.
a 10 people game. There's 2 imposters, and basically you have to finish tasks or to find out who the imposters are in order to win the game.
Okay. So I take it you're a fan of the game. So you
Yes.
worked off of a nice grid, which is fine. Now, the type that you've chosen, where it says the Skeld, is that a pretty common typeface that they use, or is that one that you chose?
So the fonts that are in there are fonts that they actually use in the game.
Okay.
I downloaded them and then tried to recreate them as best as I could.
Okay. And how about the color? That kind of,
The
it's kind of a nice
colors,
green.
yes.
Yeah. That's the color that they use.
Yeah, I think it's a weird looking color. I thought about
Yeah.
changing it, but I felt like it'd be
Well,
best
yeah,
to
that's
just like,
probably, since you've worked off a grid and, it's a nice kind of a centered, symmetrical composition, that works fine. Don't have an issue with anything there. It's more the scale to make it a little bit more dynamic. And I would probably enlarge it a little bit, and don't be afraid to let welcome to overlap it. But I would probably experiment with some different colors that pop a little bit more. And I would also try using some of the layer effects just a little bit to see if you couldn't maybe use outline. If you couldn't try, that would be one thing to try. So for example, let me try it myself here, since I have control over all of this. So here's a skill. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try a layer effect here. Let's see what we get here. I could try outer glow, which would be kind of nice. Let me try the stroke first and see what we have. And I don't want that. It's kind of funky looking, but it's kind of neat. But I don't want that.
oh, okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah, but notice how it pops. Probably before I do that though, let me cancel that. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to hit Command T to transform. Whoops. I just want, okay, is that pretty large? Is that taken from, no, let me undo that.
Is it because I feathered the images of each person? Why it's doing that? Because
No, 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 no,
the
no. No, I should be able to transform just that layer. That's what I'm trying to do. And I don't know why it's selecting everything. So let me lock. Um, hmm, that's weird. So let me twirl down on that. Let's again select this. That's weird. Command T. And let's enlarge it. Let's see what it enlarges. There's something else there. So you know what? I'm going to undo. I'm going to cancel. Trying to figure out what you got going here. So like, there we go. We'll do that. And maybe we'll try to enlarge it on that by selecting it. So now if I hit Command T, it will just affect that. And that's fine. Now I can go ahead and I can enlarge this a little bit. Okay. Now I didn't want that. Well, that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And now I'm going to fill it with, on a new layer. So, that's about as large as we could get it. I could probably extend it a little bit too. So if I hit, again, Command T for transform, I'll have to do that afterwards. So let's pick a color for that. Let's pick kind of a nice bright color from here, a nice bright yellow or something. I don't know if that'll work or not. Okay, boom. You notice how that pops?
yes.
Okay, so I'm going to go with that and I'm going to deselect and I'm going to turn off the one underneath it so we haven't altered anything. And then I could go ahead now and we can try a couple of other effects that, they may work, they may not. I don't know. As I said, maybe Command T for transform again. And to really fill this up, I could stretch this like so. So why not? You know, and I can, you know, move it down a little bit. And it still reads, you know, welcome to, and it's going to read even better when I take this and I apply a layer effect to it. So let's try, I'm going to try outer glow and see what we have here. And see what we get. Okay. So if I have that, let's move this down a little bit. Just a little bit. So let's change, the opacity is fine. Noise, I don't want it too much. Let's change the spread a little bit. Okay, what do we got going here? That is weird. I don't know why it is doing that. Size. So you get kind of a ghostly kind of effect.
Yeah. Should I pick a not so bright color? Because
Huh?
Oh, I was thinking maybe a color that's probably not so bright because the welcome to is white and it kind of blends in where it overlaps.
We could always change that. So I could, you know, select it again. So let's pick, red is usually, you got to be careful with red. How about a light blue? So let's pick a light blue. So now let's fill it with that. So that might work. You know, it's worth experimenting. You could try orange, you could try, you know, whatever. You just want to maintain the contrast. Again, I'm not sure, and I don't know why. Maybe it has to do with the brush that I was using, but why that's interfering with that outer glow. It's kind of weird the way it's having that effect. You could also outline it. So we could, you know, again, none of these are chiseled in stone. We could, you know, apply a stroke to the outside. Now, why is it doing that? It could be, I don't know, how did you paint this on a separate layer?
The word for that one,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, that might be why that it's taking that, and there's something else that's going on here and affecting it. Because see out here in the outer edge where my mouse is, that's being affected. So that could be the reason why that is happening here. But anyway, that gives you some ideas to work with just for that. And then if you wanted to, the welcome to, if you felt it wasn't reading strong enough, again, you could try, again, no, doesn't have to. You could try drop shadow on that. That always helps for that to read a little bit. Okay. So that it makes the title a little bit more prominent. That's all. Okie doke.
Okay.
So those would be my only suggestions. Yeah. So again, I'd have to go back to looking at how you created. So let's turn that off. Let's turn off this, and let's turn this back on. And actually, I'm going to turn off a bunch of stuff just for the heck of it. I want that back on. And let me, because I got to see how all of it. There you go. That's why it's doing that. When I applied that outer glow, you see the outer edges here, these little weird things.
Yeah.
Over to the edge, those need to be erased. That's what's affecting it. So you'd have to come back with the eraser tool and clean all of that up. And it's not that hard. There we go. You know, why isn't it allowing me to affect that layer? Is it protected? Is it locked? It might be. So let's lock everything and then unlock everything. Now, the eraser is not allowing me to work. So I don't know. Let me go to check something out here. Let me go to image mode.
So after I added the feathers on all the 10 images on the outside, I realized it wouldn't let me click it because if you can see that it's highlighted red in the layers.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why it did that. So then I just double click it and it makes the effect pop up. And then I just hit cancel and then it's no longer red.
So layer style, blending options. So let's try it. Let's cancel that and let's turn off. Okay, now it's no longer red. So, oh, now it is again. So yeah, I'm not sure what you selected. Oh shoot. So let me right click again, see what we have here. Let me double click. Blending mode normal. So I'm just going to click OK and see if that doesn't. There, now it allows me to do it. That was it. And see, now I can erase all of that extra stuff. And now when you apply some of those effects, it's going to look decidedly different because it's taking what you had done here and it's adding that. That's still part of the layer. So you need to make sure that you clean it up a little bit. Okay?
Okay.
Oops. There we go. So it won't take you long to do that. And then you can play with it and see. Yeah, I would play with different colors, try some of the layer effects. It's easy to kind of overdo it with the layer effects. So I'm not saying go crazy with it, but make it kind of fun and really prominent and pop. Because I think you want it to be as strong as the images that you have. I don't know if you agree or not or what, you know, but see, I'd have to go back and clean up mine as well.
I get what you're saying. I got you.
Okay, so you got it?
Yes.
Okie doke. Well, then that is it for today. So let me go back to our end file here. Anybody else want a critique? No? Okay, well then, thank you, Markeisha. That will be it for us today, and we'll continue and finish up this lesson on Wednesday. And if you have progress reports that you have for your movie poster, you want to run some concepts by me, I would appreciate that so you don't get too far along with it. And then that would be it. Let's see who else has their hand up here. Roberto, do you want to have a critique also?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
No, I just wanted to let you know that I did a revise on the one that we did last time. So I removed the people in the background.
Okay, let me take a look at it and I will make a note of that. And then we can talk about it Wednesday since we're sort of running, we're not out of time, but by the time it gets me, so that, yeah, so Roberto. So you have a redo or redo. Okay, and then we'll look at it on Wednesday, okay? How does that sound?
Okay, all right.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so that's it for today. You're free to leave And I will have this recording up on YouTube very soon. Okie doke. So I'm going to say goodbye for now. I'm going to pause the recording. And then that will be it for today.